the Wrestling Kennection.
New Day, along with a new tag team, the Lucha Dragons, fresh out from NXT, and Sin Cara and Kalisto, who wowed everyone with his acrobatics and fun, high-flying lucha libre style, completely wowing the crowd and taking the champ and putting the champs, Kid and Cesaro, along with the Ascension, on notice. Now, moving on to the main show itself, WrestleMania. We kicked things off as hot as could be with the 7-man Intercontinental title ladder match featuring the likes of Stardust, the champion Bad News Barrett, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, and Daniel Bryan. Oh, and of course Luke Harper. Who could forget Luke Harper? I mean, like I said, things started off quick, fast-paced here. There's no lockups. There's no lockups in a ladder match. We start things out real fast-paced. You had Dean Ambrose diving outside. You had Dean Ambrose dropping elbows off of standing opponents off of 20-foot ladders. You had Dean Ambrose getting powerbombed by Luke Harper through a ladder at the ringside, pretty much breaking both the ladder and Dean Ambrose in half. You had Dolph Ziggler and Daniel Bryan headbutting each other, getting to a headbutt war on top of the ladder. You had Bad News Barrett walloping everyone in sight with bull hammers, much like this one, which sent R-Truth reeling down off the ladder below to the ground. But ultimately, it would come down to Dolph Ziggler, Daniel Bryan, like I said, getting to a war of the headbutts. But like JBL and Lawler succinctly put, you don't get into a headbutt fight with a goat. You lose every single time. And that proved to be the case here. Bryan knocking off Ziggler and claiming his first Intercontinental Championship and joining select few like Shawn Michaels and Triple H as a Grand Slam champion, winning the U.S. Championship, Intercontinental Championship, Tag Team Championship, and the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Daniel Bryan starting off WrestleMania 31, much like he ended WrestleMania 30 with YesOmania. Now, we move on next to what was a personal grudge match between Randy Orton and Seth Rollins. The face of the WWE versus the future of the WWE. And Randy Orton reminded everyone just how he got where he is today, proving he is just every bit the athlete as that Seth Rollins is, dominating him in the beginning with drop kicks, clotheslines, and even wowing everyone with a bit of vintage Randy Orton coming off the top with a high crossbody. However, Rollins proved why he is the de facto future of the WWE, at times dominating Orton throughout the match with super kicks and even a breathtaking moonsault from the inside to the outside of the ring, nearly injuring his own back in the process. Now, this was tooth and nail. You had several near falls throughout. You had Orton kicking out of you had Rollins kicking out of an RKO. You even had Orton kicking out of a curb stomp. Both men couldn't seemingly put each other away. You were wondering who's going to win this match, who's going to come out on top. Orton would. Orton seemed like he was set up for a second curb stomp, only to spring Rollins up, maneuver into a breathtaking RKO. I'm telling you, folks, you had to believe this to see it. It was probably one of the best RKOs I have ever seen from Orton in some time. A thing of beauty, as stated by Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole. A thing of beauty, the way Orton would just counter out of curb stomp in mid-air and hit the RKO. Ladies and Orton would prove his point, prove his mettle as number one contender. When he came out, he didn't waste any time in establishing himself as the number one contender to the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. However, who would be the champion? Discuss that a little later. Now, moving on to another big-time grudge match. This was a grudge match that spanned all the way back to the Monday Night Wars. WWE, WCW, Triple H, the Game, the Cerebral Assassin, the King of Kings, and the COO of the WWE versus Sting. Versus Sting, the icon, the immortal, the last standing soldier of WCW. These two, again, at their age, they're both Sting's in his 50s, Triple H in his late 40s, approaching 50s. We weren't expecting a four-star, five-star classic, but just the magnitude of having these two icons face off in the ring was enough to get the crowd buzzing. You saw their entrances: Sting with the Japanese war drums, Triple H with the Terminator entrance in tribute to his good friend Arnold Schwarzenegger. You had the makings of an epic here, and Sting surprising everyone, especially Triple H, with how much he hadn't lost a step in the ring, throwing Triple H off his game, so to speak, with arm drags and a surprising hip tosses and a surprising drop kick. Now, while at times Triple H would take control of the match, like we expect him to, Sting kept coming back and coming back and coming back. He couldn't put him away. Triple H just could not put Sting away with his typical offense, which was and then we ended up finding out why this was made a no DQ match at the last minute. It was so that Triple H could stack the odds in his favor with, of course, D-Generation X. You see here Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, New Age Outlaws, X-Pac, all rushing down to the ring as soon as Triple H was in trouble, locked in the Scorpion Deathlock. Sting would initially drive him off and surprising everyone with an amazing dive to the outside, taking out Triple H and DX. But eventually the numbers game would prove to be too much, even though Sting at one point ended up kicking out of the pedigree, much to the amazement of the crowd and Triple H. Then Triple H broke out the sledgehammer, but then, shocker of shockers, here comes the retirement. The NWO, Scott Hall, the original NWO. Not talking about the WWE NWO. I'm not talking about the one with Shawn Michaels and Booker T and X-Pac and the Big Show. I'm talking the original three: Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and the Hulkster himself, Hulk Hogan, reprising his role as Hollywood Hulk Hogan for this night, evening the odds for Sting. Despite Sting's own controversial history with the NWO, they came to on the side of Sting and WCW. Scott Hall even lending a hand, giving Sting his trademark black bat, and taking the fight to Triple H's DX cohorts. Now, we had plenty of close calls when DX and NWO were warring out on the outside. Sting once again had Triple H in the Scorpion Deathlock, only for Shawn Michaels to make a surprise return, to everyone's surprise, laying out Sting with Sweet Chin Music, only for the Stinger to once again kick out. So then it was a face-off, sledgehammer versus baseball bat, and Sting broke, and it was more or less a sword fight, bat versus sledgehammer, and Sting nearly drove Triple H to his knees with a baseball bat shot and broke the sledgehammer in half, was ready to lay into Triple H with a Stinger splash, only for Triple H to get the broken head of the sledgehammer up, nailing Sting in the chest, and nailing Sting in the face, and hitting another pedigree for the 1, 2, 3. Now, that I didn't mind so much. If this was Sting's swan song, I say he went out in a really fun way. But what I don't get one here, the little sticking point for me here is this: they had a handshake to end this. Not another war of words. Not Sting laying out Triple H with a Scorpion Death Drop like we all knew that Triple H probably deserved. For all the underhanded tactics, for for bad-mouthing Sting and WCW and its legends and its legacy. You end it with a handshake, and I'm not getting this. I mean, supposedly if this is Sting's last match, then fine. Then you know what? Fine. We put the whole WWE, WCW rivalry to rest. We handshake. We move on. But supposedly, given the rumor that Sting is up for a SummerSlam match and a WrestleMania match next year, purportedly with The Undertaker, given all the photos and rumors we've seen online, in the dirt sheets, the photos we've seen on Twitter of the two talking animatedly in the airport. I mean, I just don't. I mean, it's just kind of bittersweet for me the way this ended. All right, if you were going to end this with a handshake, then you should have had Sting win. Admit Triple H, then admitting, okay, Sting was the better guy, and moving on. But for Triple H to extend what was almost a mocking handshake to Sting, I mean, pardon my French, it reeks of douchebaggery. The way. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Was that a bad word? Am I not supposed to say that? Okay. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, that's one of the unspoken words I'm not supposed to say on TV. I apologize. It was a less than favorable move by Triple H, giving a mocking peace offering to Sting, if this supposedly isn't his last appearance. If all the hoopla bringing Sting back only to have him lose at WrestleMania, I don't get it. I mean, like I said, if it's his last match, then it's not a big deal. But if he's going to be sticking around, then he needs to. Then there needs to be something more. All right, now moving on, we had the Divas tag team match. Again, like I said, should have been a fatal four-way, but that point aside, it was an entertaining bout. Helped the crowd get back into the swing of things after the Triple H Sting match with all the fun overbooking. Now, much like their last Diva tag match, the Bellas dominated for the most part, proving they were the more formulaic, together tag team, of course, being sisters. Paige and AJ weren't exactly on the same footing, despite reconciling on SmackDown a couple days before. Now, the Bellas would prove to pick them apart. Paige hung in there, at one point even kicking out of Nikki's rack attack finisher. Paige would fight back, and after Nikki would accidentally lay out Brie with a shot, knocking her off the apron, Paige managed to make the hot tag to AJ, who came in, took it to the Bellas, and after more miscommunication between Nikki and Brie, AJ would lock in the Black Widow submission on the Divas champion, making Nikki tap out, and Paige and AJ finally getting their so much wanted vengeance over the Kardashian wannabes. Now, where that leaves AJ and Paige and the Bellas in terms of who's in line for the Divas title, well, we didn't really get much of an answer on Raw, but we definitely know that AJ certainly is in line, given her victory over Nikki Bella. Now we move on to what was a very interesting segment featuring Triple H after his match after his victory with Sting, along with wife Stephanie McMahon, celebrating the new attendance record for Levi's Stadium, saying that all of this could not have been possible without themselves, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. And that Triple H said that beating Sting felt like he was beating every single fan in the audience. Especially a great way to appeal to your viewers. Hey, Triple H? Hey, Hunter? Good job appealing to all the viewers out there, saying, oh, it felt like I was beating everyone there. I was feeling I was beating millions of people watching on the WWE Network across the globe. Great sales pitch. Anyway, this would bring The Rock out, who objected to the fact that the people were what made WrestleMania and the WWE, not Triple H and Stephanie. Now, while Stephanie got right up in Triple H's face, saying if it weren't for the McMahons, that Rocky's father Rocky Johnson and grandfather High Chief Peter Villa wouldn't have had a future, and neither would he. Stephanie laying loose with a big slap across the face, letting Rock know exactly what she thought of him insulting her family's legacy. Now, while Rock himself said, "I could never hit a woman," he had a friend who could. Miss UFC herself, the ultimate female fighter, Ronda Rousey, who was donning a lovely Dragon Ball Z shirt with the also popular saying over 9,000. 9,000! And proving that she could definitely be the one to take the fight to not only Stephanie, but Triple H, wowing everyone, including, you can see here, the wowing the Rock by judo tossing Triple H. And then having Stephanie at her mercy in a merciless arm lock, but decided to let her go and save Stephanie and give a little mercy to the McMahons. For now. So the McMahons were left walking wounded, while Rock and Ronda were left standing tall. Now we had the first of the three big main events here. The first being the U.S. Championship match. Now, we don't have all the photos here, but just this one photo alone demonstrates just how physical it was. There were no lockups here. These two were fist fighting from the get-go. It was back and forth. It didn't quite measure up to Cena and Rusev's face-off at WWE Fastlane the month before, but these two proved to have a physical bout, whipping out maneuvers we had never seen before. Rusev coming off the top rope with a vicious headbutt, while Cena surprised everyone, including me, with a springboard stunner. Cena proving that even in the twilight of his career, he can still pull new maneuvers out of his wrestling playbook. And now it would come down near the end. Rusev countered out of the attitude adjustment. Lana seemingly had the ref distracted. Cena would take Rusev, shove him into Lana, who ended up apparently with an injured ankle, which distracted Rusev long enough for Cena to hit another AA and pin Rusev for the 1-2-3, breaking the Bulgarian Brute's undefeated streak and claiming and dethroning him as United States champion. Now, Cena, the following night on Raw, would instigate what he likes to call the John Cena U.S. Open, which makes sense because there are times where Cena can be as boring as a golf tournament. But regardless, it makes sense because of Cena's role as a fighter. He wants to be a fighter. He wants to be a fighting champion. Makes perfect sense. But what didn't make sense was who his first challenger ended up being. We were all expecting Rusev, but surprisingly, it ended up being Dean Ambrose, coming off of his tumultuous attempt at trying to win the Intercontinental Championship, fought Cena tooth and nail for the U.S. Championship, came up just a little bit short, but showing that he has the stones to go out and try and be a two-time United States champion, and proving how much of a fighter Dean Ambrose is. So it goes to show that Dean Ambrose does want to be champion again. He does want to see his name up on those posters in Titan Towers at WWE headquarters. He wants to be among the greats, and it goes to show that Ambrose has not given up on that goal. Now, coming to the second big-time main event of WrestleMania, we had Bray Wyatt versus the returning Undertaker. Now, like I said, Bray Wyatt had been building up this entire feud on his own. We saw the promos. We saw the recreation of one of Undertaker's famous casket entrances. Bray Wyatt had done everything he could to call out the Undertaker for this match. He wanted to extinguish the last of Undertaker's spirit and assume the throne as the new face of fear. Bray Wyatt went to every length to get it, including including finding the Undertaker's urn and calling out the dead man himself. Undertaker would respond, except, and here we have the match. Now, Taker surprising us with a kind of a hearkening back to his days as the American, well, bad you-know-what. Now, I mean, of course, we had the leather pants, we had the slicked back hair, reminiscent of his days wrestling in 2002, 2003 as Big Evil. But regardless, we saw the Undertaker of old. We saw the Undertaker being as brutal, in your face. We didn't see as much as the supernatural. It wasn't as much of a supernatural. We didn't see as much mystique in this match as we would have liked, given that also Bray Wyatt had an injured ankle going to this match. It kind of took away from the impact of the match of Undertaker's return. But regardless, the men put on the best match that they could. Now, Bray Wyatt did impressively kick out of a tombstone, and it seemed like he was closing in on the victory, even hitting Sister Abigail's kiss at one point, only for Undertaker to kick out as well. Now, as Bray went into his famous spider walk, which is unhinged and unnerved many an opponent, Undertaker would do his famous sit-up, proving that the dead man did have some of that mystique left. Absolutely shocking, as you can see here, absolutely shocking Bray Wyatt down to his core, unnerving the eater of worlds long enough for Undertaker to hit a choke slam and then another tombstone for the eponymous 3 count, and proving once and for all that Undertaker has not lost a step since his streak was snapped last year at the hands of the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. Now, however, in this case, I don't really feel, I mean, as much as I liked seeing Undertaker come back and win here, Bray needed this win more. You had Bray being built up for so many months over the likes of Dean Ambrose, R-Truth, and everyone else, coming out on top in seemingly every feud that he'd been thrust into since his failed feud with John Cena at last year's WrestleMania. Bray had seemingly been built back up, only to lose to Undertaker. Now, again, it's great that Undertaker gets back, but Bray is not going to... I know Bray's character doesn't really care about wins or losses. But the bottom line is, this is the second time he's faced a big name at WrestleMania, and the second time he's come up short. So, I mean, what are we supposed to take away from this? That Bray can't get it done against the big boys? What does that say about Bray Wyatt? Remains to be seen, because we haven't heard from Bray Wyatt since WrestleMania. Hopefully we'll hear about Bray Wyatt next week and see just what Bray Wyatt has in store for himself for the future. Now, that leaves us with the main event. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. There have been speculation of this match ever since Reigns won the Royal Rumble, ever since he punched his ticket for WrestleMania, even after he proved his worth as the number one contender by beating Daniel Bryan to retain his number one contendership at WWE Fastlane. Now, like I said, I respect Roman Reigns. I respect that he was not put in the best spot in terms of his build-up, and he was doing everything he could to prove his worth, taking on the Authority and taking on and demolishing the Authority almost single-handedly. But that was nothing compared to what he had to face in terms of Lesnar, who, much like his match with Cena, which turned out to be completely one-sided, Lesnar dominated the outset of this match. In the first 30 seconds, just like his match with John Cena last year at SummerSlam, laying out Roman Reigns with an F5. But once Lesnar probably could have gone for the pin, he could have probably had Reigns beat within a minute. But once he saw the blood, once he saw the fact that Reigns had actually busted him open on his cheek, he saw his own blood, he was tasting his own blood, Lesnar went into another mode completely, demolishing Reigns with suplex after suplex, even at one point saying, "Welcome to Suplex City," well, I can't really end it right there, but let's just say he equated to Reigns to that of a female dog, to say the least. Welcome to Suplex City, you female dog. Anyway, but the difference between this and his match with Cena was that Roman seemingly absorbed all the punishment. He absorbed the F5s. He absorbed the suplexes. And you could see at times that Roman was laughing. He was enjoying this. He was liking every second of this because he was taking everything that Lesnar could dish out to him. And Lesnar started laughing right back and started slapping the you-know-what out of Reigns because he was just ramping it up a notch. Every single time Reigns would laugh at him. But that only served to reinvigorate Reigns, who, when Lesnar tried to make an attempt to ram Reigns into a steel post, would end up in the ring post himself. Lesnar ended up busted open, bleeding from forehead to chest, a proverbial crimson mask. Reigns found himself reinvigorated at the sight of Lesnar bleeding, came in with 3 straight Superman punches, 2 spears, and still couldn't put Lesnar away, only getting the closest of near falls. Now, when he went for a 4th Superman punch, Lesnar made an amazing midair counter, much like his midair counter of Seth Rollins at Royal Rumble, countering the Superman punch into a 4th F5. And now when it seemed like Lesnar was ready to pin Reigns, it seemed like that he had Reigns beat, here comes Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins picked a perfect time. He picked his spot. Both beasts, both big men were laid out. They were weakened. Rollins comes out, cashes in the Money in the Bank, makes it a triple threat match. Goes to curb stomp Lesnar twice, but Reigns breaks it up. Reigns breaks it up, but gets shoved out again. Rollins goes for a 3rd curb stomp on Lesnar, only for Lesnar to counter. Tries to hit an F5. Reigns hits a spear on Lesnar, which sends him out to ringside, leaving a weakened Reigns susceptible to a curb stomp. Rollins gets the 3 count, and you have your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins, making history threefold at WrestleMania. How you ask? Being the first man to cash in at WrestleMania, becoming the first man to cash in during a championship match, and winning. And third, taking this goal, this dream from Roman Reigns on top, just to stick a pin in it, becoming the first NXT graduate to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. An historic moment all around for Seth Rollins. However, what about the aftermath? You had a angry, teed off Brock Lesnar. He and Heyman would give kudos to Roman Reigns for the way he held himself, the way he fought back against Lesnar at WrestleMania the next night on Raw. But as far as Seth Rollins goes, all bets were off. Lesnar, right then and there, wanted his championship rematch against Seth Rollins, and seeing like the moment that Rollins walked in the door, he was ready to go. Here comes Rollins out to the ring. He's seemingly ready to go, but then he says, "Oh, I'm jet lagged. I'm exhausted. My foot hurts from curb stomping you guys so much," and decided, okay, he wasn't going to do the match. He would rematch him when he was ready. Lesnar was having none of that. He chased after Rollins. He pulled an escaping Rollins back into ringside twice when Rollins tried to escape into the crowd. He would lay out J&J security. Lesnar was so enraged, so incensed, he overturned the announce table, injuring both Booker T and JBL, and then taking a helpless, poor Michael Cole, dragging him into the ring. And in the most sad, do I mean sad? I mean glorious moment I've ever seen, one of the most glorious moments I've ever seen on Raw, hoisting up Michael Cole and hitting a big-time F5 to the delight of a post-WrestleMania Raw crowd. Now, he would also drag a helpless cameraman in, but Stephanie McMahon would come out. Stephanie would warn Brock, okay, you'll get your rematch in due time. You need to put the cameraman down. And of course, Brock's a reasonable man. He put the cameraman down with an F5. Unfortunately, unlike Triple H, Stephanie is one boss you certainly don't want to cross. Oh, believe me, it's one thing to get in the ring with someone like Triple H, but Stephanie can be oh so much more vindictive and hit people where it hurts. And it was no different with Brock Lesnar, who Stephanie suspended indefinitely and intends on, like I said, hitting Lesnar where it hurts, his wallet, with a big-time fine. The details of Brock's suspension, as announced on WWE.com, will apparently be announced this coming Monday on Raw. Now, like I said, this was an action-packed WrestleMania, one of the best. I wouldn't say the best, but certainly plenty underrated compared to what we were expecting going into the show. Lesnar still looked strong. Rollins had his big-time WrestleMania moment, and Reigns' reputation was saved by having him still in pursuit of the WWE World Championship and providing a plethora of opportunities for World Championship rivalries in the future. We have Daniel Bryan as the new Intercontinental Champion, which should help bring plenty of prestige back to the IC title with the plethora of opponents that Bryan has to face in the returning Sheamus, the former champion Bad News Barrett, Dolph Ziggler, and plenty more. We have John Cena and his new U.S. Championship Open, which leaves plenty of up-and-coming superstars to try and knock off the WWE's stalwart U.S. champion, including the former champion Rusev, who has made his rematch known for Extreme Rules. What the extreme stipulation will be between Rusev and Cena, we have yet to find out. But I'm sure we will in due time. Now, that brings us to the end of our WrestleMania paper review, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you for watching today's show. If you have any questions about WrestleMania, if you have any questions about the show or the upcoming Extreme Rules pay-per-view, you can email us at wrestlingconnection@gmail.com. You can check out all our posts on facebook.com/thewrestlingconnection. You can check out our tweets and comments about Raw and SmackDown and the pay-per-views on Twitter at WConnection, and our soon-to-be established website, thewrestlingconnection.wordpress.com. Now, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, spring is here at last. The snow has melted, the birds are chirping, the flowers are in bloom, and Extreme Rules is on the way. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, as always, be connected, get connected, stay connected. Have a good night. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.
spell.